Hello and welcome to this special YouTube live session focused on the Global Mobile Awards 2014. These awards were first created in 1996. We're now into the 19th year of these awards. The official deadline this year is going to be the 29th of November 2013. We're just 21 days away from that deadline. So this presentation is all about looking at how we can help you answer your questions about the awards, about the process, about the categories. It's designed to give some transparency to this programme and indeed to give you a good feel for how the awards are judged, etc. The presentation of the awards, of course, will take place at the Mobile World Congress, the industry's biggest platform. And it's important that you remember the date of that presentation, of course, which is going to be Tuesday, the 25th of February 2014. Last year we had some 600 entries and that was fantastic. High quality entries, the competition is pretty fierce, and so another reason to help you get the inside track on making your award entry. So what makes these awards special as opposed to any of the others? I think it's partly because of the calibre and quality of the judging panels that we have, and we have some 200 judges from all over the world that participate in assessing the entries that are submitted. And we also have more than a dozen CTOs from the operator community that actually look at the overall best technology category. So part of the reason is these awards are so highly respected is because we just have such an amazing array of independent judging experts that assess the programme. So when you win, you really do win, and it sets the benchmark. To those of you that have submitted questions in advance, we'll get to some of those in a moment, but if you've got any questions at any point, either tweet using the hashtag GSMA14 or send an email to awards@globalmobileawards.com. Now, I'm also with Bill Best here. Bill is the honorary chairman of the Global Mobile Awards judging panel. Bill, can you tell us a little bit about your background to start off here?
Sure, thanks. Hello, everyone. So I've been in telecoms for more years than I care to remember, 43, believe it or not. I know it seems barely possible, and 30 of those in mobile. I've always been in a technical background, and I've held recently a number of CTO posts, I guess most notably in One-to-One, which is now part of EE in the UK, and here at the GSM Association. And a few years ago, I formed a new consulting company called A&B, where all things mobile. So I've got wide experience in the mobile industry that goes back quite a long way.
Okay. So how do you, first of all, let's look at how do you go about selecting judges to be on the various panels, and maybe you could talk about the various panels that we have looking at these awards.
Indeed. So we have a wide range of categories that cover just about everything in the mobile ecosystem. So we need to get judges, expert judges, in their own field. So that's what we're looking for first and foremost. We're looking for judges who really understand that field that covers the category that we're entering. And anyone that goes to look at the website and sees the number of categories and the range of categories will know we've got to get experts from a wide range of fields. So it's a wide range of experts. They come from analysts, consultants, journalists, other industry experts, wide range of people. We have a very good mix of people, male, female, certainly a very good regional split. We're now getting judges from all over the world. So we've got a really good global lineup of judges. It's a very impressive band of people.
Okay. So tell me, I'm submitting my entry, I've filled in my online form and I've submitted it. How does the process then work in terms of the judges' access to that entry that I've submitted and the follow-through process toward choosing nominations and winners?
Well, we have an online system that the judges can use, fully secure, so they can use that wherever they are in the world. And the judges get to see absolutely everything that an entrant puts on an entry. So it doesn't get cut or edited, they get to see everything that's put there. So it's a mixture of videos and other materials that entrants may use that the judges look at, and then a set of questions which have been set really to gather evidence from the entrant about the product and the service, and particularly against the criteria we're looking for in that particular category. So our judges will read the information, the evidence that's submitted to them, and then they'll assess it question by question, awarding marks. And it's a simple process really, because we then add up all the marks from the judges, and the entrant with the most marks is the winner.
So what do you think the judges actually look for in spotting that all-important winner or nominee?
I think the first and foremost, the judges are looking for evidence against the criteria that we've set. So my top tip for entrants is always make sure you're answering the questions correctly and giving evidence for the criteria that's being sought, and that's very obvious in the question. And unfortunately, we've had many a great entry really where for one reason or another they may not have answered one or two of the questions and given all the evidence, and that doesn't help the judges. So they're looking for giving the right type of evidence. They're looking for all sorts of information that an entrant can give, customer testimonials. They're looking for what evidence you can give of market success, market update, any information about product success and product take-up. Judges do like to look for some hard evidence and hard facts in the entry, but first and foremost they've got to make sure that it's meeting as many of the elements of the criteria as possible.
I was going to ask you about that, the criteria. We set out some elements of key criteria that judges look for, but how do you really make sure your entry aligns with those? Is it a question of just making sure you tick off and align with each one of the things, or does it need to be some of them?
No, it needs to be all of them really. I think it's just a question of giving some thought to each particular question. We don't come up with the questions and the criteria in a haphazard method, as you know, Mark. We put a lot of research into the questions we're going to ask, and indeed we work quite hard every year on the categories themselves. We're refreshing them every year, and we add new categories. Some years we drop categories. We're always trying to reflect the ever expanding pace of the mobile world, as you know. And then when we've selected the categories, we're really saying, well, how do we elicit the right information from the entrants to help the judges really pick the best winner? So we put a lot of thought into those questions, and that's why it's so important for each entrant to make sure they cover off each question.
Innovation is probably one of those words that just comes up again and again in our industry, and comes up in almost every list of criteria, almost every question. How do you go about, in this industry where there is so much going on, how do you best demonstrate that your entry is innovative?
That's a really good question, Mark. People have often asked me that, and I can always remember one judge a few years ago. He said to me, on this thing about innovation, Bill, I can't describe it, but I know it when I see it. And that's to paraphrase somebody else's very famous quote. Because our judges are experts in their field, they know their field. They instantly know when something is innovative and different in their field. They get it quite quickly if they're given the right information. And I always say to them, just use your experience, your knowledge of the field to look for that standout candidate, and it will be quite obvious to you when you're reading the entrance, when you see it, you'll know. But they are looking for some of the things we mentioned earlier on. They're looking for, has it got market traction? Can you demonstrate customer satisfaction? A good take-up? Is it changing the industry? Is it a breakthrough in the industry? Is it something that's very new?
Does that have to be on a macro level, or can it be on a more micro level?
It can be both, Mark. I think we've had some very impressive entries that have been very innovative, but they may be in a very particular niche or specific area. And we've seen some fairly significant breakthroughs right up in the infrastructure space with mobile technology. So it's across the range. Innovation's possible in all the categories.
And I mean, I've heard myths out there before that the GSMA awards, it's only the big guys that win these awards. Whether they're vendors or operators. Is that true in your experience of being part of this?
Yeah, I know this is something that gets mentioned to us quite a lot, isn't it? I think one of the things that make these awards so prestigious really is the fact that we can demonstrate a really good mixture of big and small in terms of winners. And you've only got to look at the awards website and go back and look at some of our past winners to see What a really good mixture we've had of small companies, big companies. We've got companies from all over the world, you know, that have won awards. Companies that have won awards really, you know, before they were household names, and they're household names now. So I don't, you know, the size and who you are is not really important for the judges. They're really looking for that entrant. That's more important. Is this entry great? You know, that's what comes first and foremost, not who it's from.
Yeah. And on that question of let's say, smaller players in the mobile ecosystem, we've had a question in on Twitter here, which is asking about the new category 6E, which is the best solution for growing smaller or independent networks. And the question really is, you know, are cases around virtual operators considered to be relevant in this category? There's a few other elements of this question. For instance, a small operator in Nepal, which is part of a bigger group, has 2 million subscribers. Would that be a small and independent network?
It's a really good question. So this is a new category this year, Mark, and what brought this about really was we were looking very much at the way technology was evolving, particularly with LTE and LTE Advanced, and we were thinking, can the independent operators really keep pace with this technology change, because they don't have the same scale that some of the big operators have. And looking at the number of mobile networks around the world, we discovered that some 500 have 2 million customers or less, and 400 have 1 million customers or less. So there's a lot of operators out there that don't have scale. Now, they're good, innovative, clever operators. It's just they're in smaller markets.
Is it about smaller markets or being part of a bigger group that has the buying power?
It's a bit of both. I mean, some of the operators in smaller markets are part of bigger groups, so they can get help and leverage from their group, but not all of them. Some of them are truly independent and still quite small because they're in a small market. So helping these people, this category was really brought in to say, let's see what's out there. You know, who's got products, services, ideas that can help these more independent operators to really keep pace with technology and offer the same sort of products and services that maybe we take for granted in the more developed markets.
Well, I'm going to challenge you a bit, because this person is asking, is smaller strictly to be seen as having maximum 1 million subscribers, or is a 5 million subscriber network also small? What does smaller networks mean?
Okay, so in the criteria, we had to sort of draw a line somewhere because we had to give a guideline. So in the criteria, we drew that at about 2 million customers. So sub 2 million, we said, was really within this category. You know, one could make a good case and say, well, 5 million is quite small as well. But we had to draw the line somewhere, really. And that line that we've drawn really is the sort of halfway point. It's about half the mobile operators in the world fall in that within that category.
Okay. Another question we've had on Twitter here is, can you clarify the weight applied by judges between the actual benefits already tangibly provided by an initiative or product or service versus the potential ones still expected to be provided? So it says, which two dimensions, actual benefits versus potential future benefits, receives the higher consideration, given that the submitted initiative could actually have been launched quite recently?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So we naturally have to have a cut-off date by which a product or service or entry has been commercially available. And traditionally we do that at the end of November of each year. And of course what that does mean is if a particular entry has been commercially launched in, say, the last quarter of the year, it's had less time to get commercial traction, you know, marketplace adoption. But it might still be viewed by the judge as being a tremendous breakthrough and innovation, you know, something we've been waiting for. You know, the judge will say, where has this been all our life? So I think whereas the judges certainly do look for evidence of market take-up, customer numbers, how successful this has been in the marketplace, they're also acutely aware that they have to also consider entries that have not had that opportunity yet for market traction and take that into account. So if it is an entrant that's come to the market late in terms of the cut-off period, the judges will take that into account and will look at the promise and, you know, do I think this is still a worthy winner? And we have had winners in the past that, you know, have been on the market not too long.
Yeah. What kind of evidence do judges like to see, and do they value seeing, that underpins the suggested success of an entry? What sort of evidence?
Well, I think we do get back to customer testimonials. We get back to market take up. Evidence of market success. They are looking for those types of things in the evidence. I think also why a particular entrant is different from other entries that in the same category. What makes it stand out? What does make it different? What makes it stand out in that crowd? Those types of things.
Yeah. You and I always talk about this wow factor, that you know it when you see it. Can you give some examples, or are there any things that jump out at you in terms of winners that we've seen over the last few years that had that wow factor? Because I think it's important just to say, what is that special something?
Yeah, indeed.
If we can define it. Yeah.
Yeah. That certain sort
Je ne
of
sais quoi.
yeah that certain element that's so hard to pin down. I think if we look over recent years, we've had things like winners like SwiftKey and WAS last year, who I think were Waze. Sorry, I always there's different ways of saying it, isn't there?
Different ways of saying it.
And I never get it right. I think they were good examples of when the judges looked at it. They said, well, hang on. This is actually quite a simple idea, but it's incredibly clever. And it's amazing how often the cleverest ideas are the simplest ideas, aren't they? So it doesn't have to be incredibly complicated. It can be a reasonably simple idea, but the judges will say, you know what? It's amazing nobody did that before. Why didn't anybody think of that? And they're good examples of people that just done clever things and executed it really well.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. When you think about the awards and what they mean to an organisation, do you get much feedback? Do you see much that really demonstrates, illustrates, reflects how much it means to employees, to their investors? Do you see much evidence that these awards are actually so highly coveted?
Yeah, indeed. I mean, Mark, as well as I, when we sit in the award ceremony at Mobile World Congress. The buzz inside that hall when the winners are being announced is something special, and when the winner is, I'm always amazed at the group that have won it. The reaction you get from them. The sheer enjoyment and the back slapping and the high fives and everything that goes on with it. And the other thing is, I'm always very impressed when the CEO or whoever comes up to accept the award. They always say this award is for all of my staff, all of my people. They've earned this award. It's testimony to the hard work that the whole company's put in, and that's always reflected in that award program. So we see that's one bit of evidence. We see that euphoria from the people that have won it. Of course, the flip side of that is those that haven't won can be disappointed, and it's a measure of how seriously people take these awards by the depth of disappointment when they don't win it. So we sort of see both sides of that coin, and indeed we've been tracking now more recently some of those winners to see how they've been getting on past winning and getting some testimony and comments from them about what it's meant to win the award, and we've put some of those on the website for people to look at.
Great, yeah. A couple of questions we've had on Twitter here. The criteria on many categories suggests the product service must have been introduced in the last year since the awards. Do entries have to be wholly new, or are point releases, in other words, updates and other forms of older products, are they eligible?
Yes, they are. What we've done is we've tried to tighten up a little bit on point releases or upgrades to existing products, and make sure that what the judges are really looking at is the new upgrade or update in the product. That's really what they're judging. So it may be an established product of a number of years standing, but if it's a new point release, we're really asking the judges to say, is this upgrade, is this made a significant change? Think mostly about that upgrade and where that's taken the product.
Yeah.
That's the important thing for upgrades.
Now another one is what's the best way of proving that a product is commercially available on the market? Whether you're selling to consumers, whether you're selling to enterprises, whether you're selling indeed to networks and others. what's the best way of proving you've got a product out there?
Well, the best way of proving is to be able to tell us wherever you can at least one or two instances of sales that you've made. I know that's not always possible with some products because of commercial sensitivity that goes around with it. That's the best way. So if you can, give us that evidence. Other than that, we're looking for, a clear demonstration from your website or from other sales and marketing material that this product, has been available for someone to buy before that period. And we are trying to make sure that we are genuinely looking at products that have been commercially available and aren't just, still prototypes or demo type models.
Okay, so we've put an awful lot of emphasis, haven't we, that in the last couple of years, but particularly this year, on video submissions. We went from paper, we went online, and now I think judges are saying to us that a video can paint more than 1,000 words because it can quite succinctly paint a picture of what that product or service does. How much emphasis would you put on that as a judge in seeing a compelling video?
It helps the judges enormously, Mark. I think to see a short video that really tells the story of the product, it helps the judges enormously. We have to have some sympathy for the judges because they have a lot of entrants to look at and a lot of words to read. So the videos are very helpful to the judges in really, it's the first thing they look at when they go in to look at an entry is really the video. So it sets the scene for them. It really tells them what this product is, why it's different, why it should win. And these are only very short videos, obviously, but it helps the judge enormously to understand what that product is before they then start going a little bit deeper and looking at evidence against the criteria. But if they're doing that from a good background of understanding what the product is, it helps enormously. So we've been trying to encourage entrants, haven't we, Mark, over the last few years to use more of the multimedia facility on the website in their entries.
Yeah. So most of our categories are judged by independent experts, aren't they? And that means analysts, journalists, academics, subject matter experts who are independent of operators or vendors in the main, and they have to declare any conflicts. When it comes to the technology awards, again, that's the case until we get to the best overall mobile technology, which is judged by a dozen or so CTOs. Tell us about that, why we do it that way in terms of having the operators look at that best overall technology. And you think there have been any examples where operators have made buying decisions or look more seriously at some of those that they see that come across their desks?
Indeed. So this is a good point. So what we did a couple of years ago, we formed a panel of CTO judges from around the world to look at the best technology breakthrough category and to judge that specific category. And we found that was really well received by lots of people in the industry, that their entry was going to be looked at by CTOs. And if you could get a CTO endorsement of the product, this was quite powerful. But what we did last year, as a bit of an experiment, but it worked really well, is we said to the CTOs, instead of judging one technology category, what we'll do is we'll take the winners of each technology category and then we'll put them in front of you to pick the best technology in class. So the CTOs really appreciated this because it gave them a broader range of technology categories to look at. And they said to me that they enjoyed it very much. They said it gave them a chance to look at things that perhaps they would never have seen, never have come across their desk before. So they enjoyed doing it, and whoever can now win this best in show technology category, I think it's got a prize worth having. And certainly some of the CTOs have told me that they've followed up and have made buying decisions and bought products and services from things they've seen first in the Global Mobile Awards.
That's amazing. That is quite incredible testimonial, isn't it? Because, it's not something that we ever set this thing out to be, but I think it has become quite an important byproduct for the CTOs themselves who get to see new stuff they wouldn't see, but also for those entrants that get the chance that they wouldn't otherwise get to put it in front of
No,
CTOs.
indeed. So. And we have, as you know, Mark, each year 600 plus entries, not all in the technology categories, but even so, we have well over 100 in the technology categories. And no CTO can really get round and look at 100 things in a in a year.
Yeah.
But here's an opportunity for them to have a short, sharp look at a particular entry. And I know a lot of the CTOs share this with their team. You know, they'll farm it out and get their RAN expert or their core expert or their services expert to have a look at this stuff as well. So they get a pretty, a pretty sort of deep dive into what they think about it. And indeed, one of the benefits are entrants are actually getting their products in front of an audience that they probably would not normally be able to reach.
Yeah. I'm afraid I'm going to come back to an earlier subject because somebody's asked another question based on that, smaller and independent, and it just says, what does independent network mean? How is independent important?
Okay, so
if we could just clarify that one.
Yep. Okay, so we were thinking how to couch this, weren't we? And we started talking about small operators, and somebody said to us, "Well, that's a bit rude to call these people small operators," which was quite right. And the reason that they're the size they are is because of the markets they're in. So we said these are operators in small markets. We sort of come up with the term, independent, to try and sort of distinguish these from the huge global groups, who may have a footprint that includes a very small operator in a particular market. We're not excluding them. I mean, what we're really looking for in this category is any product and service that, if you like, scales down, in terms of the customer base that a particular service provider has to serve, and gives them solutions that are going to work in their particular marketplace. So if they are part of a bigger group, we're certainly not ruling it out. So we're not saying
depends on the market.
Yeah. We're really talking about operators serving small markets.
Okay. I think this is probably a question I can answer myself, because the question is, do we tell winners they've been successful in advance in terms of the awards? And I would say quite categorically not. We obviously do alert, we announce by press release the names of the shortlist, but we don't tell the winners until the ceremony takes place itself. Another question here, which categories do you think are the most competitive, the hardest to win?
Oh dear, that's a good one. They're all very competitive, aren't they? We get a high calibre of entries in every category, without a doubt. And anyone that gets a chance to talk to a judge in any category, I think the judge will tell them that picking the winner sometimes is really tough. And there's very often only one mark or a couple of marks that separate the winner from the other ones on the shortlist. I wouldn't say any of them are any more competitive than others. They all attract very high caliber entries.
Yeah. Somebody else is asking if we can give more examples of types of companies that have won the awards in the past, and if I could maybe answer that one, because I think we've seen some, haven't we, Bill, where this was before they almost found fame by entering the awards. I wouldn't say BBC found fame, but certainly the iPlayer was recognising these awards pretty early on, wasn't it? And
yes.
Shazam is another good example of that music tagging service and recognition service, which won an awardee many years ago. I'd say Rovio. And Angry Birds and some of those things did get awarded in the Global Mobile Awards quite early on. SwiftKey you mentioned, Waze you mentioned. I think also Amobi, who was a small mobile advertising agency that was bought after winning the Global Mobile Award quite quickly for a lot of money just a few years ago. So we've certainly seen some of these stars before they were famous, haven't we?
We have indeed, and I think that's one of the great things about the awards is keeping tabs of winners and then see what's happened to them, and some of them have gone on to phenomenal market success after winning the awards, and of course we wouldn't say it was solely about winning the awards, but I think we would say it gave them a massive lift in winning the award along the way.
Yeah. What do you think makes these awards, apart from the heritage of the 19 years, what's the point of entering these awards as opposed to many that either magazines or other conference providers put on? Is it the fact it's the GSMA? Is it the Mobile World Congress? Is it the amount of media that actually follow and track these things?
It's a bit of all of those, isn't it, Mark? But I think primarily these are really the only truly global awards, where it's the only awards I think that are covering the whole mobile industry. You name it, we try and cover it, don't we, in the Global Mobile Awards, and we're getting entries from all over the world. So it's truly global. So we've got some heritage, we've got some history, which always helps. We've got a great ceremony at Mobile World Congress, which I think is great. We do enjoy great press coverage, from people that follow it. So there's a number of those factors, isn't there, that all add up to this being the most prestigious mobile awards. I guess we would say that, wouldn't we? But we believe that.
We
don't
believe
we?
that. Well, I mean, it's quite evident, like you say, the joy that you see from companies that win these awards. It's worth making that effort, isn't there? Just 21 days to go. It's worth making an effort and really going for it in terms of these, because sometimes judges do spot stuff that you might never imagine.
Indeed, of course, not everybody can win, as we said. But one thing to bear in mind is, as we mentioned, we have got a very impressive panel of judges. They're experts in their field. They're analysts. They're journalists. They're people that know their space. So they're looking at these entries. So even if you're not winning, you're getting your product, your service, your innovation, in front of industry informers and industry influencers. And many a judge has looked at this and okay, it may not have won, but they followed up with that company because they found they want to find out more about the company and what it's doing. So just even getting your entry read by the judges, I think is well worth doing.
Yeah. And so one final question though. So when it comes to things like the device awards and where judges actually get into a room and actually really tear those devices to pieces and debate with each other, how fierce does some of that get? And how fierce have you seen that get?
Yeah, but they're very lively, aren't they? And you've been on a few as well as I have, Mark. So we've had up to 20 judges on the room and in the room, and maybe another 10 on the phone from all different parts of the world and in all sort of different time zones. And the level of debate about devices is very entertaining, isn't it? And the depth of knowledge that the judges have is always impressive, because when they're debating particular devices, it's very obvious that they know these devices, they know these markets inside out. They're well aware of things like, that device had a different model name, in this market, or it was called something else in that market, but it's the same platform.
They're acutely aware, aren't they?
Yeah, they know all of that. They're also quite good at tracking things like the wholesale prices or factory prices of these devices as well, and that's quite important this year because we've tried to do a sort of sub $150 smartphone category this year as well, so that we could encourage more of the sort of smaller innovators around smartphones to have a category. But they're very knowledgeable, and the level of debate is fun. I think the judges love it as well because they love the banter and the discussion, and it does get a little bit, shall we say, a little bit heated at times, but they always end up good friends, and they always come to a good decision in the end.
Thank you very much, Bill. Thank you for joining us here.
It's been a pleasure.
The shortlist is typically announced, I think, toward the judging will start sometime in December, and the shortlist is typically announced sometime toward the end of January, I think, isn't it?
That's right. So we get the judges going sort of round about second or third week in December, and we cancel their Christmas and New Year holiday, as you know.
Always important. They love us for that, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And they'll finish judging round about the second or third week in January. So round about the end of January is when we can publish the shortlists.
Yeah, great stuff. Thank you very much, Bill, for joining us. And thank you for all the questions that we received. I think that wraps them all up. This recording will be made available on GSMA YouTube channel at youtube.com/GSMA online. Please feel free to share it with your colleagues and contacts that couldn't join us today. Share it widely. Thanks very much for your attention, and we hope this session has been useful. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.